Alrighty everyone, welcome back. I hope you're all having an amazing week so far. Happy Wednesday everybody. Now, there's a lot of things going on between Disney, Lucasfilm, the Disney executives specifically, and the current shakeup that they've been having with Bob Iger that's still going on to this day for the Marvel Cinematic Universe and even the Star Wars franchise. Now, given that we have George Lucas heavily involved in this dream team, so to speak, that currently consists of Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, Timothy Zahn, and yes, even Tony Gilroy, we're also awaiting other creatives to come on board as well. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And without wasting too much of your time, let's get right into the main subject here about what Lucas is up to. Now, we know that Disney is currently in this phase of right-sizing their projects. A lot of projects have been put on hold for a while. You know, one of the greatest examples of all is the Lando series that's been really kind of in this limbo mode, but it's still moving forward. But looking at what Bob Iger has been up to is that he is allowing basically John, George, and Dave to do exactly whatever they please for the Star Wars franchise, whatever they have to do to turn Star Wars around and course correct it to make sure that everything is going to move along smoothly. And that brings us to what Lucas recently did that is absolutely going to change the game for the Star Wars franchise, and that is really going to cater to the hardcore fans and really fill in some of the blanks of some of the specific Star Wars canon that we have never gotten to see in live-action form. So specifically, of course, on top of this, with George Lucas currently helping out with both John and Dave, as well as Tony Gilroy and Timothy Zahn, who currently make up the Dream Team, Lucas recently convinced them all to do something very special for the Star Wars fans. Now, one of the big plans that all creators are now in agreement with, thanks to George Lucas for forming this, is a plan to adapt the rise of Darth Plagueis and all, of course, elements of the fall of Emperor Palpatine in live-action form for a planned anthology series that is going to be in live-action form called Circle of the Wills. This show that the Dream Team is working on is said to be a series of 10 episodes so far, one of which is going to focus on the fall of Palpatine under Darth Plagueis and his influence with the dark side of the Force, leading to a live-action adaptation of the death of Darth Plagueis by the hands of Palpatine himself. Now, this project was put on hold for a couple of months at Disney as they were right-sizing their shows. However, this is now being put back on the table where actor Ralph Fiennes, correct me if I'm pronouncing his name wrong there, is actually planned to portray Plagueis in full motion capture sequences, and actor Bill Skarsgård has been eyed for the role of young Palpatine in this short story. So let me just stop here quick before I get to the next big piece of this. Now, we talked about this 6 months or so, give or take. What's interesting about that is that this is going to be an anthology series, much like Tales of the Jedi, except it's going to be in live-action form. But different from Tales is that this is going to span multiple decades or maybe even hundreds of years. It's going to take place in different eras. And the overall concept of the show by the Dream Team is that it's going to focus on the Wills, who are godlike beings narrating specific events that take place in different time periods of the Star Wars universe. One of which being a prequel trilogy era, but basing after, of course, the High Republic, where Plagueis is a great deal and Palpatine is a great deal as well. Showcasing the rise of Plagueis and the fall of Palpatine from being, of course, you know, a regular person in his day-to-day life to falling to the dark side of the Force. What's interesting about this is that George has a full-fledged plan that everybody else is completely on board of, and that is to create a live-action adaptation of the moment that Palpatine kills Darth Plagueis, something that we have only led ourselves to read in the Plagueis book or imagine in our minds. We never got to see that happen in live action before, let alone in animated material, and even in the canon, this has never been displayed in the comics, I believe. So there's a lot to work with here. The fact that Circle of the Wills, they are aiming to announce the show officially by the beginning of 2024 to really set things up. moving on. Now, Circle of the Wills is said to have 1 full hour episodes, excluding credits, of course, that will actually tell tales in different eras of the Star Wars franchise. This is also being used as a strategy by Disney to test the waters what fans would like to see more or less of in the Star Wars world. It's called Circle of the Wills as the gods will be narrating specific events in the beginning of each episode that happen across space and time, as they are the creators of the galaxy far, far away. Now, this is where things get crazy. Disney is even looking to canonize the fact that when the films that we know to this day, when they say a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, they are making it canon that this is told by the Wills, and that line of dialogue in the beginning of each movie is a line that the gods themselves are saying. This was surprisingly George Lucas's old idea from the 70s, from the beginning, that was scrapped many, many years ago. Now, what's interesting about that is that's interesting. The fact that they want to canonize the fact that when we see that line of dialogue pop up before the opening crawl of each film, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, in that blue text, they want to make a canon. George wants to make a canon that it's the gods, it's the Wills who are saying that, kind of being this narrator in a sense in the beginning of each story. That's very interesting. So the Wills, guys, we never really got to learn much about these characters, let alone about these beings. The closest example that we got to those were in the Clone Wars, I believe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong, but those were not the Wills. Those were Force priestesses, and they're similar to the Wills, but they're kind of like below that status of the Wills. They're kind of like right below them. So what's interesting about this too is that George Lucas is going to be grabbing Ralph, who portrayed, of course, a lot of different, characters in multiple franchises out there. You guys may very well know him as Voldemort in the Harry Potter franchise, so I can see why George would want him on board for Plagueis. And the fact that they are getting, of course, Bill Skarsgård to portray the young portrayal of Emperor Palpatine is another great casting choice in my opinion. They want to make sure that they have somebody that has dealt with a lot of dark-oriented stories, and basically, Skarsgård is well known for playing Pennywise the Clown in the It movies, so I could see where they got that idea from as well. Now, I don't know about you guys, but anthology films, it really gives Disney an open opportunity or a great window to really kind of experiment, and that's their strategy. They want to experiment with specific stories, see what works, see what doesn't work, and then move on from there. And then they can really kind of expand on that story. So, for example, in this show, if the story of Palpatine and Plagueis really hits, home and really kind of resonates with fans, they're gonna continue to tell those stories about young Palpatine and Plagueis. So, overall, I'm very much intrigued to hear what you guys have to say about this approach by George Lucas that was approved, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. From night to moon, we hear them moans again.